New information if you're planning a trip to Europe this summer. The State Department warns to keep your guard up. The United States issuing a travel alert for Americans who are planning to travel to Europe, saying that places popular with tourists and several major events could become terror targets. Security is already tight after the deadly attacks in Paris and Brussels, and the State Department says that there is no specific threat this summer, but terror groups are always looking for a chance. Let's talk to Mark Dubowitz. He's the executive director of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Mark, good morning to you. What do folks planning a trip need to know?
Well, they need to know that in Europe today there is a severe terrorist threat. It's a threat that is emanating from the Middle East, from places like Syria and Libya and Iraq, and it's a result of hundreds of thousands of radicalized Muslims throughout Europe, and thousands of them going over to those countries in the Middle East and returning with the intent to kill their countrymen.
But what are we supposed to do with this information? It's pretty broad, not much specific, although saying that the World Youth Day in Poland, for example, the Tour de France could be terror targets. We kind of know that already, don't we?
We do know that, but I think it's a good warning to Americans that if they're going to go to Europe, stay away from these major venues. I mean, there are a lot of beautiful things to see in Europe. I wouldn't be canceling my plans this summer, but I certainly would be staying away from these major venues. I wouldn't necessarily be taking the metro, and I would just be avoiding crowds while you're enjoying the summer in Europe.
You know, Mr. Kirby over at the State Department, the spokesman over there, isn't discouraging people from going over to Europe this summer, and he's not discouraging people from attending some of these events. But, to the typical mom and dad, the suburban mom and dad, I was going to take my kids to Austria this summer and finally ended up saying, you know what? Europe's still going to be there. I'm going to do that another time. What do those typical parents need to know before planning a trip?
Look, they need to know that the chances of something happen are very, very low, but they also need to be prudent about this. I think if you're going to go over to places like Austria or France or Germany or the UK, enjoy those countries, but you can enjoy those countries without going to a soccer stadium with, hundreds of thousands of people there that is just a prime target for ISIS. And you have to recognize that as a result of the president's policies, the Middle East is in flames. And jihadists are trying to get to Europe to do terrible damage.
But to be fair, it's also because of European policies as well. I mean, they have open borders, so anybody can cross the border who's been in a lot of other European countries and may have been in Syria or other places for some sort of terror training.
Well, that's exactly right. But we also have to remember as Americans that European counterterrorism and counterintelligence officials are our actual line of defense against those jihadists jumping on a plane from Heathrow or from Charles de Gaulle in Paris and flying to JFK or Dulles airports. So
we certainly hope so. The State Department says that this is an alert, not a warning. There's a difference between the two. What is it?
Well, they don't have any specific threat information right now. This, again, is just the general atmospherics that they're concerned about. But they know that the European counterterrorism officials are inundated today with threat alerts in Europe. Their system is, in many respects, breaking down. And I think this is a recognition of that. So there's no specific warning right now that would constitute something of that grave nature. But an alert says to Americans, you know what, be careful, be prudent, and if you're going to go to Europe, just be cautious of where you spend your time.
All right. Our folks now know, you can always go to Yellowstone National Park. A lot of great things to do around here in the United States, and we've got a segment on that coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. Mark, thanks a lot for your expertise. Mark Dubowitz from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. We'll see you again real soon.
Great. Thanks so much.